everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you a turning red design, and turning red is so controversial, I just had to make nail art for it. I have watched it. I thought it was, I honestly don't see what the big controversy is as far as the content of turning red, but I didn't necessarily enjoy it. It wasn't my favorite animation style, but it is definitely worth a watch, especially if you have like teen kids, and I'm not gonna say teen girls, teen kids or tween kids. I think it has some really good messages in it, especially for that particular age group. Otherwise, this is a video. It's got May on the nail, just painted. It's got her face, it's got her cute little smile. And then it also has a magnetic panda, red panda that snaps on top of it, so you can have her turn from human to panda and back and forth as many times as you want. I hope you love this video as much as I do. Let me know your feelings on turning red. I know so many people are very opinionated one way or the other. I'm curious, what do you guys think? And I will see you guys next time. Bye. So we are going to begin with a acrylic ombre in the background. So I'm going to start out with a dark red and apply that to the tip and fade it up. And before I go too far, I'm going to place a magnet about like 2/5 up from the tip of the nail. Not quite in the halfway point, but you know, in that general vicinity. And then I'm going to take some black acrylic and I'm going to apply it from the cuticle zone or the proximal fold down and blend it over the red. Once I have both those on, I'm going to encapsulate the nail with a layer of clear acrylic to make sure it's nice and strong and completely smooth over the depth of the magnet. Bear in mind, those magnets are so thin that it really doesn't take much to completely cover them up, but you don't want it to be sticking up either. So just, you know, play around with the magnet. Otherwise, after that's done, you can file this nail into shape. As you're filing it, you do want to file so that the magnet is exposed. And you will know, trust me, if you've never filed over a magnet, you will know when you expose the file. It won't hurt, or when you expose the magnet, it won't hurt your e-file, but you'll know. Then we're going to wrap the nail very, very tightly with some aluminum foil, and we're going to smooth that over, roll over it with just a brush cover or anything cylindrical, and it'll smooth out most of those little wrinkles, and it'll give you a beautiful, perfectly contoured space to sculpt your Meilin as a panda. As you can see, I placed another magnet over the top of the aluminum foil so that the process goes nail with a magnet embedded, wrap it with foil, and then the magnet on top. So there's a piece of foil separating the two magnets from each other. As you are sculpting your red panda version of Meilin, we're going to be making sure that that second magnet, the one that is on top of the aluminum foil, gets completely covered up. Same thing. It isn't thick, but you do need to make sure that it is covered up because you don't want this either awkward bulge in the middle of the nail that doesn't, or in the middle of the 3D panda that looks awkward, and you don't want to have a silver exposed disc. You don't want any of that. You don't want to see the magnet. You don't want to know the magnet is there. That is part of what makes the reveal of this design so spectacular, is that you really would never know that this panda 3D art is not permanently attached to the nail until you slide it off and you reveal what is underneath. So to start sculpting this panda, obviously you can choose whether you want to just do the face or if you want to do more of the body. I ended up pretty much sculpting the whole entire panda, which wasn't my intention in the beginning, which I think is kind of funny. Just the way that the sizing went, all of a sudden I was like, hey, you know what? I can fit a whole entire panda in here, and I was actually happy about it. But it's so cute. The biggest draw, I think, to this movie from my perspective is the sheer cuteness of Meilin as a red panda. I actually, like I said, animation style, I said this in the intro, it's not really my favorite. It's not really my style. I did enjoy some of the references, just kind of some of the throwbacks, like the Tamagotchis. I thought were a good touch for the movie, and there were some good moments in it, no doubt, and I think that some of the messages in it were good. However, like I said, just not really my style. I don't know. I like a smoother animation, I guess. It's a little bit choppy for me, but everybody has their own thing, and even besides that, it was a good movie. So we've got our little cheeks sculpted in our panda. We've got the ears. Just keep going through and adding all of these details. I ended up actually using 4 different shades to make my panda, as far as just the panda fur color, discounting this cream color I'm using now, but 4 different shades of orange to red. So the first one I used, I would say, is like the medium tone. It's the biggest space that I used. This one I'm adding right now is a little bit of a shimmer to it, which anytime I'm doing fur or hair or anything of that nature, it naturally has a bit of a shimmer or a sheen to it. If you use a color of acrylic that has just the barest hint of a glitter, not exactly metallic, but you know what I'm talking about, just that little bit of shimmer in it, that gives a really beautiful luster to the hair, which makes it look a little bit more natural and actually just brightens the whole thing up. You don't want it to look glittery. You don't want a chunky glitter or an actual where you can see the glitter particulates. You want it to just be very smooth, very fine, very soft shimmer. we're going to be taking that color, which is a bit oranger. We're going to be brightening up the fur a little bit. And then I'm going to take a red, like a regular old red color, and then a dark red. So I've got those 4 different shades. Obviously, I know they're very specific shades, and not everyone is fortunate enough to have that many of the acrylic shades or that, particular combination of acrylic shades. So if you don't, it's not that big a deal. There are so many times where I don't have a color that is exactly what I'm looking for, and I'll just go through with acrylic paint and I will color correct. So typically in that case, what I would do is I would grab as close as you can to the colors that you're looking for and then sculpt and then go through with acrylic paint. Mind you, acrylic paint, not builder gel, or not builder gel, not gel polish or gel paint, but acrylic paint. And you're going to just kind of wash over it and paint over it and fix it. It's not a big deal whatsoever. But if you do have those colors, you want to go for like a terracotta orange to more of like a burnt orange or a scarlet red type of a color, and then to just a classic red, and then a darker deep burgundy. So we're going to be using that darker color, or just the regular red, to sculpt in the little legs on the bottom. As I was doing this, I started out with, so I'm going to rate these colors from 1, 2, 3 to 4, 4 being the darkest, 1 being the lightest and the orangest. So I'm going to start with the shade that is in the second position. So not quite red, but not like a bright orange either. And we're going to be using that color just to get the base down. Then I'm going to go to the first color, the oranger color, to do the highlights on the majority of the fur. But then on our panda, the extremities, the hands, the feet, the legs, the arms, the tail, are going to be done slightly darker. The tip of the tail actually is going to go back to lighter, but you're just going to want to start it out a little bit darker. And at any point you go through it and you're like, you know what, this needs just a little bit of shading for this or that, go through and add those colors, grab those colors and add them as well. So with just a regular red, I'm going to start sculpting our red panda arms. When you're doing this, another thing that is so cute that you could do, or that, you could consider, is that you don't have to do just one red panda extra. So this red panda obviously can be interchanged. It is a magnet on top of the nail. If you wanted to sculpt a second one, you could go for it. The thing with the pandas is they represent Meilin's extreme emotion. They represent her heightened emotion, whether that is anxiety or happiness or anger or just, whatever she's feeling. If it's an intense emotion, that's when she poofs into a panda. And so when you're sculpting your pandas, you can choose what intense emotion you want to portray. And if you want to portray a whole bunch of them, you certainly could. When she's angry, her panda is rather fierce looking. So if you wanted to have some of that in this, you could make another one. And you could do, 4 or 5 of these, because there's, like I said, anytime there's extreme emotion, she poofs into this panda. So if you wanted to, you could add even more to this design and represent it even further by adding extra emotions, which I think is just kind of a cool little additive if you were to go through and do this, especially if you're going to wear this and you were going to dedicate, say, 3 weeks to this design. If you're going to be wearing it for a while, why not make some extra pandas? The other thing you could do is, if you're sculpting this and you have a pretty standard nail shape, you could sculpt these, and if you wanted to, you could save them and you can use them again later. Anytime you sculpt a nail design and you have a magnetic piece, you can save them. Don't throw them. When you go and you redo your set and you file and you fill and you make a whole different concept, save any pieces like this. Even your 3D pieces, like if you make a 3D bow, not always, depending on how well they're attached really, but a lot of times you can take, and if you file underneath them and clip them, you can save your 3D bows too. It's not something that I typically do, just because when I make a 3D bow and I attach it to myself, I almost completely fill in underneath the bow with acrylic. Not even necessarily that I'd have to, but I just really want to make sure it's not going anywhere. But if you don't do it quite that exaggeratedly with the acrylic, you could do it too for that as well. But anyway, once we have our little panda done, we're going to take acrylic paint, again, not a gel product, but acrylic paint, and we're going to be just adding some details to our red panda. So much was sculpted in that there really isn't too much that needs to be done per se, but there's so much that could be done. I'm going to do just a very minimum amount of outlining here and there. I'm going to be adding the orange tones and the red tones into the eyes. I'm going to be adding a little detail here and there. So when you go through and you do outlines, this is new animation. It isn't quite as smooth as like I said, it's not as smooth. That wasn't necessarily in the drawing style as it was in the movement.
So as far as the drawing goes, it still looks very modern in the fact that there aren't those really sharp outlines. So I didn't want to do the really sharp outlines, so I'm just going to do very subtle ones on the main areas of focus, like around the panda's eyes, nose, and eyebrows. After that's done, you can apply some matte top coat, and now we get to paint our Meilin in human form. I started out by applying a layer of gel base coat over the top of this acrylic nail. As you saw, there were some very deep scratch marks from my hand file, which is something I'd never show you guys, but I always hand file my nails after I use an e-file on them. So if you are curious about that little detail, I do that every single time. And actually I mention it occasionally, but yep, hand file it every single time. Anywho, you don't want those scratches to interfere with your painting, so you have a couple different choices. One of them is to apply a layer of gel base coat over the top of the nail. I think that's probably the best suggestion I could have for you, but if you don't want to do that, whether you don't have gel top coat or gel base coat, or you don't have you don't want to waste it, whatever the reason is, that's the first, probably highest suggested option. The next one you could do is you could take some acetone on a lint-free wipe and you could swipe over the nail briefly. You don't want to set it on there or like soak the nail even for a few seconds. You just want to brush or like press and wipe the nail. That will dissolve the little bits of acrylic dust that are on the nail, and it'll fill in those cracks. It'll smooth them over. That'll give you a very smooth painting surface. Not as smooth as the gel base coat, but very smooth. The third option is to apply a layer of gel top coat. If you're painting with gel polish, you have gel top coat. If you're somebody that just applies gel polish over acrylic, you may not have gel base coat. Even though, depending on the circumstance, you probably should, because it does give you a much better, smoother coverage. That being said, not everybody utilizes that if they're just applying it over an enhancement. So if you don't have the base coat, there are a couple different things you can do, but it is really nice to do detail painting like this with gel products. It gives you such a smooth, beautiful finish result. So we're going to start painting our Meilin. You want to make her smaller as far as like her face size and her body size compared to the panda. Because of the fact that my panda is the full nail, or it's about the full nail, it's about the full panda. I started my Meilin face about at the halfway point, so she just looks smaller. So when you have the panda on there, it instantly just fills up the nail. It looks bigger. It gives you that increased size feeling. She is not shrunk down all of that much as far as like if you look at if she were the full person compared to the size of the full panda, but I also wanted to make sure I had enough space on her face to paint the details. And if you make it too small, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, it's too small. Even if you painted the details in there, nobody could see them with their naked eye. And so we're going to be doing our little Meilin. I'm going to add as much detail as I can to her sweater, to her face, to her hair. This is still an extremely detailed animation. There is, a sweater pattern across her front. There is little stitching marks. There is everything. And for all of these gel polish colors and the acrylic colors, you can find those in my description box below if you're curious what they are. The acrylics I was using were from Double Dip. They are really rich, beautiful, creamy colors that are very nice to sculpt with. And then the gel polish and the gel paint I'm using is all from Madam Glam, as are those little brushes I'm using. So if you want to know what any of those color names are, like I said, they can be found in the description box below. So as you're painting your little Meilin, you're probably going to start out with some gel polish. You're going to start out with the colors that you would typically have to apply to a nail fully. They're going to melt into each other a little bit better, providing a little bit smoother shading just without much effort. After you have those details or that smooth shading colors in, to do the details on top of that, when you want crisp lines, smooth lines, you're going to want to switch over to a gel paint. And I actually have a wonderful whole live class dedicated to gel polish versus gel paint versus acrylic paint, when to use which one, how to use each one, etc., etc. And I can put a link to that in the description box below. Otherwise, I do want to mention, if you are enjoying this video and you have not yet subscribed to me, please, I would love if you would do so. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell. I make extreme crazy nail art all the time. I upload 3 times a week, and each video typically has some extra element to it, whether it's just something that's extra tall or extra big or built up, or if it's something that has a moving or removable element like this design. So if this is something that you find really entertaining, don't forget to hit that little notification bell and subscribe so that you can certainly see more of it, and like this video. All of that helps me out so much, and I would really appreciate it. Otherwise, we're going to keep doing our little doodles on Meilin. I think at this point she looks so funny. When I was painting this, I'm like, oh my goodness, she looks crazy without her teeth. And so before she got the teeth in, I was just thinking it would be funny just to leave her like this, because she's got that huge wide open smile. nail. And so it just right now looks kind of like a black pit. We're going to add a little bit of detail. I'm using white gel paint, which is why that color looks so intensely bright, especially against the dark background, and so do her eyes. But we'll get that all smoothed out in a moment and add some shading to it. Add the little stitching detail on the front of her sweater. Go through and add just little tiny lines. Those should be very, very thin, very just use the smallest amount of gel paint on your brush. You want it to just very smoothly glide across. You don't want to overdo it by any means. I'm going to be adding her teeth in again with that really bright white. Whenever you're painting something like this and you have that really intense bright white, if you're looking at it and you're thinking, ooh, that is bright white, it is something you're going to want to darken a little bit. Even if a design or a portrait calls for white, or you think it should be white, something like the whites of somebody's eyes or the white of her collar, depending on the lighting, even if something is white, it doesn't necessarily look white. So you're going to want to darken up some of those spots. So after you have just all of that done, you can go through and add some shading with a gray color. And I actually mixed my white gel paint with my black. I'm going to add her little star earrings and just go through and keep adding all of these details to her. Like I said, add some shading to that. It'll instantly just smooth it out and make it look so much more realistic and natural, just adding that little bit of shading. You may also notice that I'm using my Flash Cure flashlight frequently throughout this whole design as I'm painting. I do that whenever I want to just solidify something quickly. Just keep in mind that that is not a permanent cure. This is just curing something for a moment. It's not actually getting a full cure. Every time you want to add a second layer over the top of something, like for instance, I painted Meilin's face just as a base shape, and then I'm adding details on top of it, her eyes, her nose, her cheek color. Every time you add another layer, you want to make sure it's fully cured first. So every 2-3 things I do, I'm putting my nail into the lamp to cure for a full minute, so that as I go through and I do the next step, I know I don't have uncured or partially cured gel underneath. As you're doing that, if you don't fully cure, it can build up these layers of uncured product that the light in your lamp cannot penetrate through, leaving this bubble or this capsule of uncured product, which can eventually burst, it can peel, it can cause all sorts of problems down the line. So as tempting as it is to just use the Flash Cure flashlight and cure things in 10-second increments, it doesn't completely work that way. So don't be tempted to do that, and make sure you do use that. This is the new Madame Glam Chrome Gel Paint, which I just am getting to play around with. I'm going to use that to paint on her glasses. As you can see, it comes in a nice little pot. It's got a turn-on lid and works really well. Can you just see how amazing that coverage is, and is so chromy. And then I'm going to finish off our Meilin with just a little bit of a barrette in her hair with a teal color. I'm going to apply some gel top coat over the background and over the whole nail, applying a fairly thin layer. The more layers you do apply over your magnet, the less strong it will be. So you do want to try to keep everything on the thin side. Once that's done, I'm going to be applying some matte top coat over Meilin. If you wanted her to stay shiny, you could just skip this step. Things just photograph a lot better when they're matte versus shiny. You can see the details on camera. So whenever I'm doing something like this and I want to make sure that all those details are completely visible to you, I want to make sure it's matte. After that, this nail is all done and you get to play around with it and do the panda to human reveal and back and forth and back and forth. It is so much fun. I love the color palette of this whole movie too. It's, it's very bright. It's very intense. All the colors are very intense. So, really deep colors, really deep reds, just a lot of vibrance to it. So I hope you love this design as much as I do. Like I said, don't forget to click subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.